was at work when this happened, so it's still pretty. I mean, but it's still pretty fucking fresh. But the U.S. attacked Iran. An Iranian president says new leadership council has begun to work. Yeah, so the supreme leader died, which we'll get into first. But U.S. strikes Iran. Fucking happened like while I was at work. Here we go. Massive U.S. strike on Israeli, attack on Iran killed Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, triggered retaliatory strikes in multiple countries in the region is reverberating around the world. Related violence expanded Sunday to a growing number of places with a rising death toll. Major Israeli strike targeted Tehran. Iran fired drones and missiles in Israel. And U.S. military installations around the Gulf are also at the global business and tourism hub of Dubai. Several people were killed in clashes after protesters stormed the U.S. consulate in Pakistan. Yeah, this is very bad. This all started on...
The US and Israel launched a major attack on Iran on Saturday.
Yeah, this all started Saturday.
President Trump called on the Iranian public to, quote, seize control of your destiny by rising up against the Islamic leadership that has ruled the nation since 1979.
When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take.
Some of the first strikes
That's, first of all, not what's going to happen.
On Iran appeared to hit areas around the offices of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. The targets included members of Iran's leadership.
I love our forever wars.
According to a US official. There was no immediate information on whether any top officials had been killed. Iran responded to the latest strikes as it had been threatening to do so for months, including by launching missiles and drones targeting Israel, as well as strikes against US military installations in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Qatar. At least 85 people were reported killed at a girls' school in southern Iran in the Israeli-US strikes, and dozens others were wounded, according to Iran's state-run IRNA news agency.
Yeah, another Gulf War, another forever war. I'm curious what Fox is saying about it. Yeah, I gotta open up YouTube for that, I guess. Use my goddamn big brain. Iran strike. Fox. Just in initial targets in Iran attack revealed. Yep. Here, this is what I wanted to look at from Fox. I mean, this is just bad shit. Born too late to go into war in the Middle East. Born early to go in the war in the Middle East. Born just in time to go to war in the Middle East. That's so true.
We join you right now with breaking news from the Middle East. Israel has launched preemptive airstrikes against the Islamic Republic of Iran, going after a variety of positions inside the country. Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz declaring a special state of emergency across the country. Just moments ago, air raid sirens were sounding here in Israel's second largest city of...
And they did this at like middle of the night U.S. Like I got woken up for something else in like 2 or 3 a.m. and then I immediately got a news notification on my phone saying Iran was struck by the U.S. and I was like, God fucking damn it.
Tel Aviv and across major population centers here in the Middle East, warning civilians to stay close to protected areas, to bomb shelters, understanding that in the minutes and hours ahead, Israel may come under direct Iranian attack. We are getting a new statement from Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz. He says, in part, the state of Israel has launched a preemptive strike against Iran.
Yeah, preemptive for no fucking reason, by the way.
Defense Minister Israel Katz declares a special and immediate state of emergency across the entire country. The state of Israel has launched a preemptive strike against Iran to remove threats to the state of Israel. As a result, a missile...
We love Israel, people.
...and UAV drone attack is expected against the state of Israel and its civilian population in the immediate time frame. Remember, there has been an ongoing U.S. military buildup across the region for the past 2 months.
They had no fucking reason to do that. That's true. I mean, I knew this was coming in the next... I literally said in the last video, like the next week or so.
Largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, is now just off the coast of Israel, near to the northern city of Haifa. You have the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group in the Arabian Sea, a variety of U.S. destroyers in locations across the region. and of course U.S. fighter jets not only here in Israel but also in places like Jordan. You heard just last night President Trump talking about what he prefers, a peaceful and diplomatic path that was offered to the Iranians, understanding, though, that they have been incredibly difficult in the past to reach agreements with. And while the president sent his negotiators to the region, to Oman, and then ultimately to Geneva, Switzerland over the past month, both U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and his son-in-law Jared Kushner, ultimately the coordination was happening at the highest level, we understand, between the Americans and the Israelis if a decision was made to launch such a strike. And so we are waiting to get additional information from Israeli and American sources to determine what exactly has taken place. But I'm going to give you all of the updates that we are getting in right now as we receive them. We understand, according to the transportation minister of Israel, that Israel has now closed its airspace to civilian flights. Again, this is a precaution, understanding that the Israelis now are bracing for a variety of incoming possible ballistic missile and UAV attacks against their country. Remember, we were reporting here live during the 12-day war last June as the Israelis and the Iranians exchanged blows. And the Iranians have the ability to launch ballistic missiles. They take about 12 minutes to get to Israel, and they can cause significant damage to major population centers here. We also know that Israel has a variety of air defense systems at its ability, and some of those include the short-range systems.
I don't know why I'm
Iron
not Dome
listening
to this.
system,
I was like, why is this
the
still
Arrow
going?
system, and also David Sling. You also have Patriot missile defense systems and THAAD systems provided by the Americans that were deployed here in preparation for the possibility that a decision was made to strike Iran.
Yeah, this literally happened. Oh, for no fucking reason, dude. This shit. Pope urges an end to Iran conflict. 4 dead strike on central Israel. Israel's service said at least 4 purposes were killed. Central strike spokesperson said searches are ongoing for additional victims. This whole thing is so frustrating, incredibly frustrating. 6. What's up, Batmax? Israel closed Gaza. Palestinians are scared. Palestinians in the Gaza Strip say they are scared of going hungry after Israel announced it was closing all crossings into the territory after the week of strikes against Iran. Palestinians say they are rushing to markets, haunted by memories of food scarcity last year. Under months of Israel's blockade, part of Gaza was declared in famine. The crossing shut down, everything was suspended from the market, prices go up, and people live in misery. Current ceasefire between Israel and Hamas led to more aid and other supplies entering the strip of over 2 million people. 2 new updates. Democrat senator says the campaign in Iran won't succeed. Chris Murphy was predicted the American-Israeli air campaign against Iran will backfire, resulting in even more hardline government. We're not going to get a democracy. We're going to get even worse leadership. That's true. There's no secret that our allies in the region, with the exception of the right-wing government in Israel, they begged us not to take this action. What is Chris Murphy saying? There we go. Fucking finally loaded. Democrats of all stripes quickly accused President Donald Trump of prolonged conflict in the Middle East. Progressives, dangerously illegal, no war in Iran. Jeff Merkley, Bernie Sanders, that makes sense. But several lawmakers from battleground districts adopted a more cautious tone, calling for Trump to justify his actions to Congress, but stopping short of demanding the end of the operation. Oh man. Why give support to this? Why give any sort of credence to this not being completely fucking illegal? We just love sucking dick of Israel. John Fetterman, of course, both staunch supporters of Israel, which aided the U.S. in the strikes for defending national security, to be willing to do what's right and necessary to produce real peace in the region. Gottmeier also requested a classified briefing, said he expects Trump to comply with the War Powers Act. Oh, why? I don't understand why we keep expecting, why we keep saying, oh, we expect Trump, we expect the Republicans to do this. What evidence do we have that they've ever fucking respected this? Spank the breaks in the responses reveal underlying divisions in the shadow party for 2 decades. The challenge Democrats faced in presenting a unified foreign policy message ahead of the midterms, where Trump's aggressive use of the military could have been a defining flashpoint. Democrats are I don't get who you're appealing to. No US citizen wants this. No US citizen is like, yeah, let's strike Iran. I can't stand John Fetterman. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffrey both focus on Trump follow. Iran must never attain a nuclear weapon, they said, but lawmakers need to be briefed and vote for their action. No, we just need to call this illegal. Schumer said in a statement he had urged Secretary of State Marco Rubio to be straight with Congress and the American people about the objectives of these strikes and what comes next, should be able to return to session a War Powers Act resolution. Iran as a bad actor must be aggressively confronted for its human rights violations, nuclear ambitions, support of terrorism, and its threat poses to our allies like Israel and Jordan in the region. He added the Trump admin must explain itself to the American people, and Congress immediately provided an ironclad justification for this act of war, clearly define the national security objective, and articulate a plan to avoid another costly, prolonged military quagmire in the Middle East. Completely weak rhetoric. Yay! Yay, Democrats! Ro Khanna is going to force a congressional vote, so that's going to be some good news. The Constitution requires a vote. The representative needs to be on the record opposing or supporting this war. I guarantee if we have a war, how can they nuclear ambitions if we keep taking them out? That's true. And the fact is that we had a nuclear deal and Trump pulled us out, and this would have never come to a war. Literally, this would have never happened if we never pulled out of the Iranian nuclear deal. It's so frustrating. Campaign ran, yeah, Chris Murphy. 11 missing in the strike at synagogue in central Israel. Israel has closed Gaza. I mean, Israel is just using this. Russia and China criticize U.S.-Israeli strikes. Of course, they're going to. Celebrations in Paris call for regime change. Members of the large Iranian diaspora and their French supporters marched through Paris on Sunday to celebrate U.S.-Israeli freedom in Iran. The thing about it is, like, don't get it twisted. This will be used by Republicans and by right-leaning Israeli dick-sucking Democrats to justify it. Ayatollah was not good. But the U.S. striking Iran without any preemptive, like, planning is not a good thing. Ooh, that's a good photo. Hey, Turkey. Hell yeah, Turkey. CIA tracked the movements of senior Iranian leaders. Jesus. Rescuers dig through rubble. It's going to be a lot of suffering for a long time. Force a vote to limit Trump in Iran. Most congressional Republicans on Saturday praised the coordinated U.S. strike. Democrats, along with Rep. Thomas Massie and Senator Rand Paul, both Kentucky Republicans, expressed frustration that Trump would carry out the strikes without seeking congressional authorization. Some vowed to force a war powers vote in the House next week that would restrict Trump's ability to carry out further attacks on Iran.
Senator Kim, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Well, the world was watching and bracing for this moment, and so now here we are. The United States and Israel have launched this military attack against Iran. Based on my conversations, Senator Lindsey Graham, for example, saying he is bracing for this to be a military operation that lasts for days and potentially weeks. What is your reaction to what has unfolded so far?
Well, this is an appalling action by this president, and to see something like this that goes so clearly against the will and the desire of the American people is something that should be shocking for all of us. Trump is trying to normalize his ability to be able to take military action anywhere in the world and to be able to just actively and publicly flaunt his efforts against the Constitution of the United States. This is something that we need to stand up against, and I believe that we need to have Congress reassemble as soon as possible this weekend to be able to vote on the War Powers resolution to show that this is not something that the American people want.
Well, I want to get to Congress's role in just a moment, but what are your biggest concerns, Senator?
Well, I worked on issues in the Middle East when I worked at the Pentagon. I was 15 years ago in Afghanistan as a civilian embedded with the military. I've seen with my own eyes the problems that arise and the tragedy that ensues when our country goes into war. And that's Trump's word. He said it's a war without strategy, without proper consideration of
Can we just call it
what the
illegal?
American people want.
Much less, I love having leaders who just don't represent those who have even elected him, much less everyone that did elect him. I don't know what you're trying to say here. Dude, Israel, let's go! Israel has the right to defend itself. So to say the Cold War never ended. Little bit. I mean, it's not the Cold War, but it is. I mean, it's forever war. It's Middle East forever war. War on terror never ended. I don't care. I really do not like that Democrats are not just calling this out as illegal.
Democratic Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia calling on the Senate to return to Washington right now to vote on a war powers resolution to check President Trump's authority to wage war
Congressional
with Iran.
Congressional offices, they confirmed to ABC News that Secretary of State Marco Rubio reached out to notify some members of the Gang of Eight to tell them about the operation before it started. Congressman Mike Lawler tweeting just moments ago President Trump's decision to strike
representative democracy ain't really representing like anybody. I mean, half the population voted for this.
Iran after months of negotiations.
Half the population voted for this.
Programs is just the Ayatollah and his regime have been the single greatest state sponsor of terrorism and the biggest impediment to peace and stability in the region. With Operation Epic Fury underway, may we be successful in our mission and may God bless and keep our troops safe. So earlier this morning, Senator Andy Kim of New Jersey was on CNN. Here's what he had to say about it.
I mean, this is an appalling action by this president. How many times do the American people need to wake up in the morning and see this president dragging us into another conflict, into another war?
We tried the
He
vote 2
literally
months
called
ago and
this
it
a war
failed.
and said that American lives could very well be lost. And to be able to do this with no justification, no congressional authorization, and most importantly, it's just very clear the American people don't want this. I held a town hall last week. I asked the participants, if you think we should be engaged in a military strike against Iran, raise your hand. Not a single hand went up. When I said, do you
Cats
think the
behind me
American people
making
need to have a
noise.
say in this if we were to engage in military action? Every hand went up. This is going directly against the will of the American people. Right now, I have zero confidence in this president who has so flagrantly violated our Constitution. That is why we should have Congress immediately go back into session for the war powers vote to reassert the American people's will, which again,
Yeah, I love that we're doing this when Congress is
they
not
don't
in
want to
session,
be
by
at
the way.
war. So I'm ready to go right back to the Senate today. I think we should be having Congress immediately in session to review this. And if the administration wants to give us the information about why they think that there is some imminent attack that they have given us no information about so far, they need to make the case to the American people. But the fact that they have moved forward in this way, put American lives at risk for something that is so clearly not a limited strike. Having worked in the Situation Room before, I know what goes into planning of this magnitude. For them to do this so clearly violates every authority that they have.
All right, again, that was Senator Kim on CNN. Stay with Eyewitness News and ABC News as we cover.
Oh, 2 new updates. What's going on? Yep, Cruz defends Iran campaign. He urged Trump. Yeah, Senator Ted Cruz urged Trump to launch this. Texas senator said he urged Trump to discuss the airstrikes on Length on Friday before the attacks. He urged him to proceed. Cruz said Trump realized the negotiations with Iran, which were still ongoing, were extended stall tactic. The diplomacy was an abject failure. Iranians approached diplomacy with arrogance and absolute hubris. Yeah, I'm not fucking surprised. UAE says its government personnel are sheltering in the country. U.S. Embassy in UAE said its government personnel are sheltering in the country and urged Americans to do the same. As flights remain indefinitely suspended due to the Iranian retaliatory strikes, UAE's airspace remains closed. Flights from its airports, including one of the busiest worldwide in Dubai, are suspended. Yeah, and the Iran striking Dubai and any other like sort of U.S. allyship in the region, which again, not surprising. We're going to strike. I mean, Iran's just going to strike anybody who's somewhat associated with the U.S. This was real. He fucked up to wake up to. And I'm really pissed that I didn't get to this earlier. More so upset with myself, but yeah, this shit pisses me off. And the fact that no Democrats are just like not the entire Democrat Party should say this is illegal, against the law, and wrong, and they would infinitely win. And no Democrats are going to take advantage of this. You will always remember, Democrats love war. Democrats love war. They get so much money from military contracts.